Welcome all. In this year or two of lockdowns, we're in our fifth at the moment, a 2-week lockdown that is just starting to frustrate everybody, I believe. We've had something like 180 odd days of lockdowns in the last year and a half or so since COVID started here in earnest, and it's been sort of difficult to get out and do anything. So when it comes to video production and so forth, it's been pretty stagnant, and I think it's been stagnant for everything certainly in our state because of this, and now half of Australia is in lockdown as well. So it is frustrating for a lot of people. But in that period of frustration, I've been sort of looking back on the past events and things and developments that I've gone through with cameras and everything else, and I sort of look back on my original efforts at putting together a camera rig that would do the sort of stuff, events and that I wanted to do. Now, I'm really embarrassed when I look back at those the rigs that I produced at that time, and I think part of it came about because video was new to me, and I watched a lot of YouTube channels where people were building up these monstrous rigs for any reason, and they're still doing that. I still see those on YouTube where people are getting a small camera, let's say even a Sony FX3, and building it into something that's even bigger than this, what I've got here now, which is, in my view, a relatively small and lightweight camera. Now, my original one was a monster weighing well over 8 kilos. It was cobbled together from all sorts of various cage parts and so forth, and eventually it got really impractical as far as I could say. In fact, I realised that it was a monster that shouldn't exist. So I got rid of half the crap that was on the camera, and I've got now something that, instead of weighing over 8 kilos, is a bit over 4 kilos. To me, it's a well handling and manageable camera weight. It's not lightweight by a lot of people's perspective, but I find it to be quite comfortable. I'm a firm believer in the fact that when you've got a little bit of mass in your camera, you're going to get more stable shots, and it becomes overall a more capable package because of that. Now, the reason that I sort of ended up getting that monstrous rig set up and was because I watched so many of those YouTube videos. I've really become frustrated with all of those, and I think been burned by reviewers who don't necessarily lie about things, but they perhaps lie by omission, I think, in some cases. When it comes to the quality review of products, like the Tilta Mini Matte Box, no one said that it wouldn't take filters on the front without vignetting, and wouldn't take some V&Ds and so on. And I find a similar sort of situation when it comes to camera construction. A lot of people just insist that you've got to have this, you've got to have your top handle, you've got to have a monitor on the top handle, and so on and so on. Now, I don't think that's necessary, and they build up these things that, in my view, are very ungainly. They start getting very vertically constructed with battery packs underneath, monitors sitting up high. Now, if you look at this setup, that's actually quite thin when you look at it from top to bottom, and it's just a rectangle from the top looking down, and it's very, very compact in my view when it comes to cameras. People say that the Blackmagic camera is an awkward camera to manage because its shape and style. In my view, it's not. It actually, in my view, is a very practical shape. The next practical is obviously the box, but when it comes to other cameras, like I've noted before, the C70, it's even bigger. When people say Blackmagic's a big, cumbersome looking camera, I think Canon had a look and said, hold my beer, and created the C70, because that is something truly large when you compare it to something like the Blackmagic. So one of those things is that looking back, I think I've sort of got something that's fairly good now for what I need and what I do or want to do when the COVID is finally over, if it ever is. But I think one of the things that you need to sort of note is, don't even take recommendations from me, but look at your own situation to see what will really work. But look at camera construction from a point of trying to make it compact in a sense of a chunkiness. And I think if you've ever sort of made a camera look something like this, you'll find that it actually is a very practical shape and form factor to use. It goes on my gimbal, as I've shown before, without any drama at all. Nothing has to be taken off for it to work on the gimbal, except for the handle, because that will obstruct on the arm, but that's a side issue. And so just take it with a grain of salt when you watch some of these video on YouTube, especially those people who do just product reviews, constantly changing cameras, constantly talking about a different product. They're not really, in my view, doing much with the gear. People who are actually doing things with their gear, buying their own equipment, they're worth listening to. And I think that's one of the things to take note of when you're looking at constructing things, buying things and whatever else. So that's my little bleat for the day, or the week, or the year. So on that note, I'll say cheers.